So what if you could build your life the same way an architect designs a building? With real intention, a solid foundation, and a clear blueprint? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to piece together a blueprint for a life that really means something, built not from just one person's ideas, but from the wisdom of all kinds of thinkers, philosophers, coaches, poets, you name it.
Okay, let's just dive right in by looking at a huge idea that's kind of hiding in plain sight. It starts with these two words, illness and wellness. The difference looks so simple, right? Just a couple of letters. But that little shift from I to we, well, that's everything. And this isn't just some clever wordplay. This single thought is the absolute cornerstone of the entire blueprint we're building. It's telling us that the path to healing, to growth, to a life of real wellness is a journey away from isolation and towards connection.
And that brings us to this big question. Just think about it for a second. How much of the stuff that weighs you down, that anxiety or feeling of being stuck, how much of it is really a problem of I? This question, this is the real starting point for the entire architecture we're about to put together.
So let's get into the first pillar and see how this all connects. Because before we can be a really effective part of a we have to build a strong I. And believe it or not, that foundation starts by looking backward, with something called the lantern on your stern. The poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge gave us this incredible metaphor. A lantern on the back of a ship, it only lights up the path you've already traveled. It sounds a little weird, right? How can that possibly help you move forward? Well, that's actually the whole point.
And here's where that idea gets super practical. Coach Tony Dungy pretty much applied Coleridge's lantern to his Monday morning film review with his football team. They don't rewatch the game to feel bad about their mistakes. No way. They watch it to pull out lessons, to see the patterns, so they don't make those same mistakes next Sunday.
So we can actually turn this into a simple 3-step process for ourselves. First, review your own past experiences, not with judgment, but like a coach watching game film. Second, distill courage from that review. Courage isn't something you just invent. It's refined from what you've already been through. And third, fuse your intuition, what Einstein called a sacred gift, with your rational mind.
And this quote just nails the perfect balance we need. Our lantern, our review of the past, it gives us knowledge. But that knowledge is totally useless until we find the courage to actually put it into practice. This is the bedrock, the foundation of everything.
Okay, so you've used your lantern to build a strong I, but that's only the beginning. The real power of that I is found when it joins a we, when it starts flying in formation.
Think about birds flying in that V shape. Seth Godin points out this is just a beautiful piece of natural architecture. The bird in front is doing the hardest work, breaking the wind, but it doesn't stay there forever. The birds rotate. The whole system is designed so that the group, the collective, is way stronger and more efficient than any single bird could ever be on its own.
But how do we actually participate in a formation like that without just burning out? Well, Adam Robinson gives us this beautiful rhythm of life, inhalation and exhalation. Think of it like breathing. Inhalation is your time for solitude, for planning, for working on your own skills. And exhalation is the time for community, for action, for using those skills to help the group. It's a sustainable cycle of learning and contributing.
And this really completes the picture. In a healthy formation, even the leader is a learner. As JFK said, you can't have one without the other. The flock learns from the leader, sure, but the leader also has to learn from the flock. It's a dynamic, living system. Okay, we've got our foundation. We've joined our formation. But what mindset do we need to actually contribute and perform at our best? This brings us to this idea of getting in the zone.
We've all heard this term, right? Especially in sports. Golfer Oz Hillman describes it perfectly. He shot the best round of his entire life when he just stopped worrying about where the ball would land and focused on only one thing, executing the perfect swing. He knew if he just mastered the process, the outcome would take care of itself.
To do this, though, it requires a pretty major shift in how we approach things. See, most of us operate on the Greek model. We analyze everything, run the numbers, weigh the pros and cons, and then we act. But to get in the zone, we kind of need to adopt the Hebrew model. Trust the process first, and then find understanding later. The Red Sea didn't part after a committee meeting, you know? It parted when Moses trusted and raised his staff.
The Stoics understood this on a really deep level. This idea from Ryan Holiday. It isn't about being passive. It's a radical form of trust in your own process. It's you saying, nope, I refuse to let someone else's actions dictate my own. My focus is on living well, and that is a process that I control.
Okay, now let's bring all these pillars together. We've laid the foundation, we've found our formation, and we've developed our practice. It's time to look at the full blueprint for this architecture of we.
So how is this grand architecture actually built? Not in a single day, not through some big heroic effort. As Aristotle told us thousands of years ago, it's constructed by our daily habits, by what we do over and over and over again.
And just how powerful are those habits? Well, according to researcher David Schwartz, this number, 95%, that's the portion of what we think, do, and achieve that is a direct result of habit. Think about that. This isn't about raw intelligence. It's about the automatic systems we built for ourselves.
And here it is, the whole blueprint. It all starts with your lantern, using your past as a solid foundation. Then you find your formation to get strength in the present through community. You operate from your zone by trusting the process. And the whole thing is powered by your habits. That's the engine driving you straight into the future.
But at the end of the day, this entire blueprint, this whole way of living, it's all designed to help each of us answer what Coach George Raveling calls the most important question we can ever face. What was I made for? This architecture isn't the final answer. It's the tool to help you discover your unique purpose.
And while that answer is going to be personal for every single one of us, maybe the best guiding principle we can have is this one. Aim to contribute more than you consume. This simple, powerful idea is the lantern turned forward, lighting the way. It's the ultimate expression of turning I into we, and, in the end, illness into wellness.